All right, Commissioner Wilkins, we are ready to go. And go ahead and ask for location again on roll call.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, we're ready. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Foster,
Here in Muskegon, Michigan.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Here, Muskegon.
Chairman Hughes,
Here, Muskegon.
Commissioner Laring,
Here, Muskegon County Boardroom.
Commissioner Mahoney is excused. Commissioner Nash,
Here in the great city of Muskegon, Michigan.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Here, Norton Shores.
Commissioner Snyder,
Here, Muskegon, Michigan.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Here, Muskegon Heights. We have a quorum. I'll move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of September 10th, 2020 committee meeting.
So move.
Second.
We'll move to the presentations, the airport presentation by Community Development Director Bob Lukens. Mr. Lukens, you're on.
Did we vote on the minutes?
Yeah, Madam Chair, did we vote on number 3?
You did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes, thank you. We'll move to the presentations of the airport by Director Bob Lukens.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I believe Kathy will be able to put up the presentation and we should be ready in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm going to talk about airport management and operations. We discussed this some time ago, and as you're aware, we went down a dual path towards either hiring an airport manager or hiring an airport management firm to manage and operate the Muskegon County Airport. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So in our discussions with the FAA, because the county the county airport has been without an airport manager since July of 2019, and then later on in February 2020, we lost our operations manager. The FAA has had some concerns with our Part 139 compliance. And the Part 139 is what allows commercial airports to operate. It's a very stringent set of rules and regulations by the federal government, and it focuses mainly on the safety of air travel. So the FAA asked us to bring in a temporary operations and manager person that could help us come back into compliance with the Part 139 requirements. So at MDOT Aeronautics suggestion, we hired on a temporary basis a fellow by the name of Rick Tagg, who's out at the airport now. And Rick comes to us with 26 years of airport experience for the Wayne County Airport Authority. He worked for 24 years at the Detroit Metro Airport, the big airport in Detroit, as the operations supervisor. And Then he went on to manage the Ypsilanti Airport, which is part of that authority. So he's been with the authority for 26 years. The FAA knows him, MDOT Aero knows him, and he was the perfect individual to bring in here to help us achieve that Part 139 compliance. So as part of that, the FAA requested a compliance recovery plan that would kind of chart our progress and chart our course to coming into compliance with the Part 139. We have to report after the first 30 days on our activities. That first 30 days is December 30th, so we'll have that report to the FAA before that. And we have another conference call with them on December 16th too, to go over our progress and our path to the future. Ultimately, the FAA expects the county to hire a qualified airport manager and maintain the staffing levels to maintain our compliance and operate the airport safely at all times. Next slide, please. So there are two, hold on one second. Oh yes, okay, I'm sorry. I was on the wrong slide here at my office. So airport operation, ownership and management, most airports in the US are owned and operated by local governments, but many of them in larger cities, especially like Detroit, for instance, are governed by authorities, airport authorities or transportation authorities, or sometimes even port authorities. Private airport management is common in Europe, Asia and Australia, but it's not as common here in America. There are a few airports across the country that are privately owned or managed entirely by private firms, but some elements of airports, including larger airports, are managed by private companies. And those are FBOs, which are the fixed base operations or operators. And those are the companies that provide fuel, maintenance, services for pilots and airlines. So oftentimes those are privately owned and managed. And then terminals, entire terminals at large commercial airports can be owned and operated by private owners. Also concessions, security, airport rescue and firefighting. Sometimes those things are contracted out to private companies to provide those services to airports. But the FAA requires the same standards for privately managed commercial air service Part 139 airports. So no matter if you're a government-run airport or a privately operated airport, the requirements are the same to maintain commercial service. Next slide, please. So we have two options for you. One is the option of a county managed facility, and the other one would be a management firm operating the county airport. We'll start with option one, which would be the county managed facility. So with that option, we would have to hire an airport manager, hire an operations supervisor, and then the suggestion is to have an assistant manager position created, and we would promote one of our staff members into that position. Currently, we have 7 staff members, or with this option, we would have our current staff members would be retained. That's 7 full-time and 1 seasonal staff member, which would include 3 admin professionals, a manager, assistant manager, and an ops supervisor, 6 maintenance and mechanic employees, which we currently have at Muskegon County right now, and then 1 seasonal maintenance employee, which we also currently have at the airport right now. That seasonal employee spends 4 months of the year during the winter at the airport and 8 months at the parks, doing maintenance work at both of those locations. And that would be a total of 9 to 10 staff. Actually, right now it's, or with this option, it would be 9 1/3 staff member. The total for salaries and benefits for FY21 in this scenario would be $765,296. And the total FY22 salaries and benefits would be $850,000. The
Before
number
you
that,
go on, Mr. Lukens,
yes.
what assumptions does that deficit make? Is it current levels of utilization or whatever it's called?
Yes, I was just going to speak on that, Commissioner. And
Okay.
the 2022 number, you see that projected deficit of $900,000. That is a deficit that has been building at the airport, or really, it hasn't been not necessarily building, but it's happened over the course of maybe a decade. In the past, we had quite a healthy reserve fund at the airport. But when I came here about 9 years ago or so, those reserves had already been started to be depleted. And then several years ago, general fund contributions were only used for FAA airport capital improvement grants, not to balance the airport's budget. So COVID has had a negative effect on the airport and airports really nationwide. Grand Rapids, for instance, used to have 14 flights per day, and 4 of those flights went to direct service to airports across the country. Now they're down to 4 flights per day. It's very difficult in this day and age with COVID in the state that it's in now to operate airports profitably. But that's not the only thing that really happened to our airport and to airports really across the country too, is deferred maintenance has been an issue, especially here at the Muskegon County Airport. A few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, I think 3 years ago, we had an emergency air conditioning repair for our terminal. We had to get an entirely new air conditioning unit to the tune of about $300,000 for the terminal building. And then we've had other issues over the past decade that have eaten away at our reserves. And a lot of this is because of that deferred maintenance. And we continue to have those issues. One of them is, the terminal needs a new roof. We need new tractors for the mowing and other maintenance at the airport. And then the terminal also needs new boilers. So this, over the years, and the rising costs of services and goods have added up. And with the decrease in revenues, we're just going to be hit very hard moving forward. Next slide, please. So some of the pros in option 1, which again is county management of the airport, would be the county board and administration retain control of the airport administration, management, and operations. And then all of the staff currently at the airport would remain as county employees. Some of the cons of that are marketing and outreach and airport development, land development potential. That would have to be completed and administered by county staff. And, that would stretch our staff very thin. Most larger airports have separate staff for development, economic development, and marketing and PR. What would happen in this scenario is our manager, assistant manager, and other employees at the airport would be responsible for marketing and outreach, and then airport development. And those are full-time jobs in themselves. So the main thing that we have to concern ourselves with here in Muskegon County is the safe, compliant operation of the airport, and comply to those FAA requirements, Part 139 requirements. So to do that, we need additional help at the airport. And I think that's what is, what's going to be one of the biggest factors contributing to that deficit. We have to have the staff to be able to operate the airport safely, especially in the climate that we have here, where, today's an oddity, but Sometimes we really get a lot of snow, and we do a lot of snow removal operations, which, takes a lot of time and effort and resources for the county. Next slide, please. The second option is to hire a management firm. And a management firm would be responsible for staffing and all management operations at the airport. That would be inspections, compliance, accounting, HR, reporting. Our current staff in this scenario, our current staff would be retained during the transition, and the staff would be able to apply for positions with the firm that would come in to manage the airport. The proposal that we received included 5 administrative spots: manager, administrative director, deputy director, administrative assistant, and an ops chief or an ops supervisor. And then 4 ops techs and maintenance techs. Those are the on-the-ground folks that take care of the airfield, do the inspections, do the repairs to any airfield issues, chase wildlife out of the airport, and deal with all of our tenants. And then if the firm achieves performance goals, incentives could be added to the management fee. So in the proposal that we received for calendar year 21, the total cost, including incentives, for April 1st of 2021 through December 31st would be $642,195. And the calendar year 22 costs would be, again, including incentives, would be $853,470. Next slide, please. So the pros and cons of an airport management firm coming in is the pros: a county would contract day-to-day administration, management, and operations of the airport with the firm while still maintaining ownership of the airport. So we would own the land and the facilities themselves, but it would be managed by the firm. The firm would report to the county directly, county administration. The firm that we've received a proposal from has a very strong marketing and outreach capabilities, and marketing is one of their prime objectives. And then another pro would be greater land development potential for the airport land, of which there's a pretty we still have pretty good acreage available within the fence at the airport. The cons to option 2, the management firm again, would be the county would relinquish operational control of the airport. Airport staff would answer to the management firm, not the county. And then the county would be responsible for some capital improvements. And if you go to the next slide, I can detail that a bit better. If you go down this table, the comparison table, and you look at capital improvements, you'll see county, federal, and state. That is the airport capital improvement plan funding for large capital projects. So that is things like runways, navigational aids, lighting, taxiway rehabs, apron rehabs, but no building or facility rehabs. So it's all has to do strictly with the airfield. Right now, currently, the county provides funding for the, in years past, the county provided funding to match those federal and state capital improvement grants. At this point, I don't believe in FY21 there was any funding allocated for that. I could be wrong though on that. Beth could answer that better than I. But you can see the comparison chart. If you'd like me to highlight any of those items, I could do that. If not, I'm open for any questions.
Is there any market for an airport like this in the open market to go out and sell it?
That's an interesting question, Commissioner. I don't know. I'd probably have to look into that pretty deeply to see if there is. And The only thing I could imagine is if there was a market for it, it would be from a foreign investor. Because this model, the management firm model or the private management of public facilities like airports is pretty prevalent in Europe, all over Europe really, and Asia too. So I would imagine if there was a market, it would be from a European or Asian investor.
The other part of the question is, are there other airports in this country that have experienced the same type of decline in utilization, and how have they solved the problems? My understanding is that there are several in the central part of the United States that are have gone through the same type of thing and have been able to recharge themselves. I don't know how. I've not looked into it.
I have not looked into that too deeply either myself, Commissioner, but I know that there is a privately owned and operated airport in Branson, Missouri that has been successful. And then, you know, a lot of the other larger airports across America have elements of the airport managed by private entities, as I outlined earlier. But I'm not familiar with those two airports that you mentioned.
Bob and Mark, I
Madam-
like the questions that Commissioner just asked. I think that might be a good, it might be a good step to reach out to NACO so that NACO could give you some detailed information or contacts with whatever state or county around the country, what directions they have taken or similar airports and what things that they're doing. That's the great advantage of being members of NACO, is they can help you kind of filter that information pretty quickly.
The other part of the
We can
question
do
that I have would be, have we done anything to try to get the test flights from the larger Air Force operations to come in here and do touch and goes and that type of thing, for which there was, we generated some revenue in prior years, not recent years, but in, I can think 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes, from what I understand, Commissioner, back actually probably before I got here, they did a lot of touch and goes from airports or military airfields in Wisconsin and maybe Minnesota. They'd fly over it across the lake and then come back. I don't think that has happened much recently. Occasionally we'll see military flights that come into Muskegon though. That would be, you know, definitely something to look into in the future. But as I said, the airline industry across America and around the world is suffering greatly during COVID.
Yeah.
So, you know, we kind of have to wait it out and see what happens with the COVID situation within the next 6 months to a year. And even then, the recovery would probably be slower into the 2 and 3 year range.
Bob, you said that this company, were they the only ones that gave us a bid, or the only ones you asked to give us a bid?
No, we put it out on my bid, you know, the statewide
BidNet.
procurement. Yeah, BidNet, that's it. BidNet. It's the statewide procurement website. And, you know, that goes out to, I think it went to 110 different companies received the notice. 73 companies viewed the documents, viewed the RFP, and we received one.
Madam Chair, I have a
Thank you.
question, if I may.
Yes, go right ahead.
So you talked about the having a firm come in and take care of it, but you talked about airport maintenance, sublighting at the airports or maintenance to the airport. But if I recall, that the county would still be responsible for, but if I recall in some of the previous meetings, all of those expenditures for the most part are federally funded. Is that correct?
Yes. Anything that has to do with the terminal and the buildings on the airport property, though, we are responsible for, the county's responsible for.
Hmm.
The federal grants that come in are matching grants. So the county's required to match, those at a
2.5.
2.5%. Yeah, 2.5% rate. The state is 2.5%. And then the feds, I believe, are 95%. They provide 95% of the funding for those grants.
Did this firm that gave us a bid, did they walk through and I mean, are they aware of the maintenance problems with the building, the new boilers and things like that? They know that they would have a substantial investment at getting this thing up to, I'm thinking the terminal, that it would take some investment to get it going.
Yes, they are. They were here. When was it? It was earlier in the summer, I think near the beginning of the summer. And we did a drive-through of the whole airport.
So the boilers in particular could be quite expensive. They do know that they need to be replaced with their proposal.
They do know the issues that we have here. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
yeah, or Madam Chair.
yes, go right ahead.
I thought that we were not talking about selling the airport.
We're not,
And somewhere I read, excuse me?
we're not talking about selling it.
No, we're talking about a management agreement. And
Correct.
wouldn't we retain the responsibility for boilers? For maintenance, somewhere I thought I read that we would continue with maintenance responsibilities.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'm not sure why we're talking about that.
No, we're not actually. Maybe I misunderstood Bob's question, Madam Chair. Maybe I misunderstood his answer. My question, the way I understood it, is the county maintained maintenance of the runway equipment and access and the lighting systems, but the manager would have the responsibility of the terminals. Did I misunderstand you, Bob?
Well, I guess to a certain extent, what would happen would be the management firm would coordinate the federal grants, but would also be, and Mark may be able to jump in here too and help me. The management firm would be responsible for the capital improvement plan moving forward and how we would acquire the monies for the capital improvements moving forward on the capital improvements that are not airfield related. The airfield related improvements are typically done by the federal government, state, and the county, through that grant, those FAA capital improvement grants. That's for the airfield specifically.
I mean,
In
yes,
the buildings?
we need to do the capital. If there's a roof leak or the roof needs replaced, we fix that. If something breaks that the mechanics can fix it, they're responsible for that. But capital would fall back on us and to the federal grants that we receive. In the proposal, we can share the proposal with you. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We can share the proposal with the commissioners to review it over the weekend. Because we're not asking for a vote today. What we do need, though, is some type of direction. Obviously, if we went down this road, we would need our corporate counsel involved at that point to discuss the fine-tune this contract. And maybe Commissioner Laring, we can fine-tune exactly what you were asking.
Well, I guess when Bob first did the reading on that, I was under the impression that the airport management firm would take over maintenance of the terminal. We would retain maintenance of the runway and the supporting structures to that. But I misunderstood you're telling me I misunderstood what he said.
Yeah, yes, they do all the maintenance. We do. Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to weigh in on this.
Yes, go right ahead.
When I looked at that, the options, the main areas that were different were the development opportunities and the marketing potential. And when I think about that, the development opportunities are really just that. They're opportunities. The marketing is really the marketing potential. But either way, those are no guarantees, and we still have a lot of skin in the game when it comes to development. I do know that when we have had an airport manager in the past, they've been very receptive to the county. They've been more specific about that work. And then we're talking about looking at a gentleman that has 20 plus years of large airport experience and also small airport experience from Ypsilanti. And I'm just looking at the fact that that person would also be answering to the county board where we still have some input. There's no guarantee that this firm would always have the best interest of the county, but an employee that works for us would definitely do that. And they also have to, get good evaluations through the county on behalf of their work they've done with us. And this person may bring in some new innovative ideas that we can have through the experience that they had. And, so to me, it's kind of even. And then I look at the fact that, even though those development opportunities and outreach are potential, there's no guarantee there. And then these numbers, I noticed the arrow sticks with them, which could fluctuate depending on how things occur. And so there's no real guarantee in that also. So either way, we're going to still be at risk depending on circumstances. But I think that we do have more centralized control, and we also have someone that's going to be more dedicated to the county if we go with an operations manager.
Well,
Madam Chair, could I have a comment, please?
Yes, go right ahead, Madam Chair.
I would kind of like to answer John Snyder's questions a little bit. He asked about if there was any interest in selling the airport, and I do have a contact with someone that's an insurance agent, and I asked him to look into that, and he had 4 very large firms that were interested in the project, and he would like to get some direction from us whether he moves forward and makes some kind of proposal to them, but he would like to get a contract just for the airport if it were to sell. And I told him I would mention that to us and see if we were interested in moving along that line or not, or we want him I don't want him to put a bunch of money and time into something that we're not even interested at all. But he did have some interest in purchasing the airport.
I'd like to comment on that. I think we need to remember from history what happened last summer, and I'm trying to remember the name of the town where the bridge went out. It was a privately owned bridge, and it had not been maintained. And so there are risks to that. So,
Madam Chair, can I have a comment if I may?
Yes, go right ahead. Give us your name.
I actually, even though that we'd still be responsible for some of the capital investments, I think the secret of success to this airport is getting flights in and out of this airport and making it that we have more customers and flow in and out of this airport. And a private firm is not going to be profitable unless they can get flights out of there. If the county manages it, and we have county employees managing it, his success isn't necessarily at risk whether or not he gets flights in. I would prefer to have a private firm come in and manage this airport, and their success would be determined by how many flights they can get in and out of this airport.
but they wouldn't
Thank you.
necessarily be investing in safety if it affected their bottom line. We've had experience with emergency managers in schools, and that hasn't worked.
Well, the safety is being governed by the FAA, and they're not going to let them operate an airport safely. Even in private industries, we still have to subscribe to OSHA regulations, and that's similar to what the airport would have to do. They'd still have to subscribe to those same guidelines. The federal government tells us what's safe and the safe way to operate an airport, not county government.
Well, I would comment also that, I think there is more skin in the game with a manager than it is a firm, being that the firm is going to be on contract and they're not at risk for any capital whatsoever. And true enough, they would want to be successful, but it would be totally dependent on that by the contract. And with a person that works for the county, their job is going to be dependent on their success. And they have to answer to the commissioners, where the firm does not. And having someone with tremendous experience with a large Detroit metro airport, and then also with a smaller Ypsilanti airport, I think brings in a good seasoned person that can actually look at the potential from what we have and work to be successful with that. It may even enhance what the staff does to make them more efficient and help this airport to be successful. And I think that in some of the years that we've had a manager, we've had better potential. We've always still worked at trying to get better with this, but I think it really does say something to bring someone in with that many years of experience with airports that could come in and lead this way and at least give us a shot. And we could still look at potentially finding a seller that we could sell this thing to.
Oh, Commissioner, if I could clarify, the person that I referred to with the 26 years of experience is the fellow that is there now. He's temporarily there to assist us with the FAA Part 139 requirements and conditions. So he has not been involved in the manager search process. I'm not saying that he couldn't be involved in it, but at this point, he's been working at the airport as a consultant on compliance.
And that's what I mean is, he hasn't really put in any effort as far as being a manager, but I think that would be great potential with those years of experience with all those in operations. And that's what we've been lacking ever since our last manager. Matter of fact, I think we had issues somewhat with the last manager that wasn't conducive to the airport, but bringing in someone that's focused on that and that's their job and they have to answer to the board, I think that's more significant.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go right ahead.
So we've been managing this airport inefficiently for years. I think that giving the private industry an opportunity to give it a try might be a fresh new look at this. And the dollars really are not that much different either way we go, but there is a huge potential for more flights, more development of the real estate around it. Even the administration gives it a high rating for option 2 for development opportunities and marketing opportunities for more flights. I think we can get a lot more travel out of this if we go to a private firm to manage it. That's just my take on it.
Are they-
We're not talking about a private firm to buy it. We're talking about to manage
No,
it.
correct. A private firm can buy it. And that private firm to buy it doesn't preclude that we still couldn't sell it. We could still put it on the market if that was a choice. Option 1 or option 2 doesn't say we can't sell it.
I'd like to, if I might make an observation, I think we need to engage the public in general in the county to determine how they feel about the expenditures being made at this point and as to what the future of the airport should be. This is not something that I think is unique to us. I think this is happening at a number of airports around the country. And I'm sure that there have been some other types of approaches made. Indeed, I know Bob has looked at some of those. Bob Lukens has looked at some of those approaches as well.
Yes. Are there any more questions?
Bob, if you could, I'd like to get some feedback from you after you talked with NACO and made some other calls and contacts.
Yes, sir. We'll get right on that.
What we'll do is bring back more information on Tuesday. FAA is very interesting in meeting with us on the 16th when you know what direction we're headed. Rick, who Bob mentioned, is doing a fabulous job out there. The new person that Bob's looking at is interested, obviously, so we can go either way.
This is for management.
Yes, I must say though, just to put things in perspective, Brookhaven, we brought a firm in. They tried their hardest, but with the employees still being the county, it made it difficult for them to manage successful. And Bob Skolnick was involved with that the longest. I was just in the last couple of years, so he can explain that better than I. But it's to figure out a hybrid where the employees stay county employees and they come in and not manage that. There might be an advantage to the employees to work for another firm. I mean, there's a lot of things you guys have to consider in this decision. It obviously doesn't take lightly. So there's pros and cons the deeper we go in this. However, the feds are wanting to know which direction we're going to go on this. So my recommendation is we continue to bring back more information for you as what you asked through this. Commissioner Hughes, we can probably bring something more back on that. NACO, like Commissioner Nass asked. We could actually have the company come talk to us, to the board here on Tuesday as well. So obviously we want to be the most informed to make a decision like this. And we'll try to bring more information back to you on Tuesday.
Mark, I think that's a great idea, having the firm come in and
Thank
also
you.
finding out what they're doing and get more information on how they're doing at other places already. And you mentioned the Brookhaven thing. And from what I remember with that, we brought that management firm in to help make that happen. But the problem is they couldn't control cost. I don't think it was the employees, but cost was one thing. And we didn't have enough people for the beds. And it was a lot of other things that we couldn't control. But again, the firm wasn't the answer. We still had the same problems that we had before. And maybe even more so after that cost got back to us that 1 year. But that's my point with management, is that they're not, they're not the complete answer. I'm not saying that they're not any good, but I'm just saying they're not the complete answer. And I do know that when we had an operations manager out there, we had our ups and downs, but we had some management on that.
So my experience with hiring a firm to come in and run, two. One is Muskegon Heights, where they had a emergency manager come in and a firm come in to run the school. And after they made their $1 million, they left and the school wasn't in any better shape. At the Lakeshore Fitness Center, the college hired a firm to come in and run it, and they promised, that they'd turn around the finances within a couple of years. It did not happen. And they took their profit. They came out fine, but the community didn't. So I think we need to be wary of experiences like that.
Yes, well, I agree. I think that we need more information on this. It sounds great, but it can be enormous too. And I think we should really look at it. Are there
Thank
any?
you. Yeah, we can move on. We can bring more information back on Tuesday.
Is that a motion?
No, go ahead and start with 35, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, the items for consideration is
Madam Chair,
Actually,
point of order.
We're
in
public
number
comment.
5.
Pardon?
We're on number 5, yes.
Oh, my
yes, right.
apologies. Correct.
All right, thank you. Need a motion to accept the operations items. But no, I need to go back to 4 and we should do something for Mr. Lukens, right?
No, it was just informational items, real esteem.
Okay, fine, we don't have to act on that. I'm
I make a
sorry.
motion to place the informational items on file.
And support.
There any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes,
8 yes.
yes, the motion carries. We'll move on to number 6, public comment on an agenda item.
No, we have number 5.
That
No,
was
she's-
5.
Number 6 is public comment. And I don't see any hands for public comment.
I don't either.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 7, TR 201235. What is your pleasure?
So
So moved.
moved. Support.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I wanted to ask why this group was selected. I think they were the highest compared to the others.
I think Jim is, there you go. Go ahead.
Commissioners, the solicitation that was done was a request for proposals. And so we had a number of different evaluation criteria that were considered, including understanding of our needs, how they plan to approach the work, the experience and qualifications, the capacity of the company, references and past performances, and price. So when we brought in the proposals, we had 5. The selection team reviewed the proposals and interviewed 3 firms. After the interviews, Blue Perspective was determined to have the best proposal. They are not the highest priced. They are in the pack of 3 that are in the middle. And we rated them to have what we believe will be the best performance for our needs. Price being one of the factors.
What were the
The
scores?
quality of cleaning is important as well. So given the history.
This firm would be brought in for a 3-year period to clean the Herman Ivory terminal on a daily basis, as well as to clean the office area of the Lewis McMurray building on a twice weekly basis.
Oh, not the buses then.
No, this is for the facilities.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Uh, Bob, I noticed on the bid form, it seemed like there were 5 different firms. Is there reasons why the others did not interview?
So our process is contained in the MATS procurement manual, and it's a federally transit compliant process. What we do is we take in the initial proposals, we review the proposals as a selection team, and then after that first round of interviews, each firm is given a rating. We then look at that and we identify a competitive range, which would be those firms that we think could reasonably compete for the contract. We then select those firms for an interview or for clarification questions. So in this case, we had 3 firms, happens to be the first 3 that were on the list here, that were in the competitive range. We spoke to all 3 of them, and then in the subsequent post-interview rating adjustment, made the final evaluation team scores.
Okay, so what was the ratings? The ratings weren't on there either.
Yeah, they are.
I'm sorry, the agenda packet is a little bit out of order. So the evaluation scores are actually on the agenda right after the transit operations report, between the transit report and the airport report. Page 6 of your PDF.
6, yeah.
So Blue Perspectives, the total score of their evaluation was 2437. And that was quite a bit higher than the other vendors.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess I was looking at that as some numbers. I didn't see it as evaluation. Usually it's like 80%, 90%, whatever. So these numbers kind of threw me. I thought these were cost.
Yeah, no, that's an aggregate score. In the future, we can look at how perhaps we can convert that to a score based on a 100% scale. But this is an aggregate score of all of the evaluation teams' ratings multiplied by weighting factors, et cetera. So they are relative to each other, but again, it's not on a 100% scale.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I do have one.
Commissioner Nash, go ahead.
Do we have an out clause for this contract?
Yeah, on the new vendor, yes, it would be the same as we've had in the past. So we can typically cancel for convenience with proper notice, or we can cancel for a cause.
Okay. Is there a time limit?
There typically would be, let me see if I can locate that offhand.
Are there any
Notice
other?
to the, I'm sorry, notice to the vendor. I'll have to locate that. We can do it without showing cause upon giving notice to the vendor, but I will have to get the amount of days that are required.
Yeah, if you can get back to me, that'd be great.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leering,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney. Oh, I'm sorry, he's excused. Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes. The
8
motion is
yes.
passed. We'll move on to TR 2012-36. What is your pleasure?
So move.
Support.
Roll call.
Madam Chair, I
I-
actually have a comment, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're approving these pay positions when we haven't made a decision to hire an airport manager or possibly a firm. We're creating positions and giving pay allocations for these, and it looks like a raise, and we haven't determined which direction we're going to go yet.
Now, I would have echo that same concern that I don't think we should be promoting someone into a position that we don't even know is going to exist if we move forward with the proposal that Bob has come to us with. So I would be real hesitant to move forward on that, not knowing if the person was even going to continue working for us or for the new firm. So that would be my question as to why this is being considered now and not after the fact when we decide what we're going to do.
Commissioner, I can address that. Bob Lukens, Community Development Director. This is kind of a multi-pronged motion. The first part of it is taking the current operations supervisor position and readjusting the pay scale on that down. We're lowering that pay scale after consultation with Rick Tagg, who is with us now at the airport. And the creation of the assistant airport manager position is to really compensate and create a path forward if we do decide to go to the county management model. Rita Bierman, who you all know, has been very, very instrumental in keeping the airport on track and afloat during the time that we've been without an airport manager and airport operations supervisor. She's been doing a great job with an overwhelming amount of work. So, we would like to compensate her for that past work and then, pave a way for the future if indeed we decide to go with the county management or continue with the county management of the airport. So, in many respects, this is to recognize Ms. Bierman's work and, the effort that she's put into keeping the airport afloat.
And Bob, I agree with that. Rita works real hard out there and has done it, basically all by herself since Jeff left us, and done an excellent job. But I'm just concerned about changing her classification and everything going forward when we don't even know if we're going to need that position at all. That's my concern. I would rather see this motion tabled now and split up so that we could, just vote on one part and then the other part, not vote on both of them at one time.
Was that a motion to table?
Yes.
Yes, I would make a motion to table this until we can.
All in favor? Okay.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
what is her current rate now?
One moment. Let me find that. Let's see.
Do we need, shouldn't we be acting on the motion to table and get that taken care of?
Right.
Correct, yes.
Yes, we should do that.
Well, I just thought that this was a motion and we could have discussion on this.
I think we have to deal with the motion to table first.
That was my point.
Right.
On the motion to table 36, Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Commissioner Skolnick,
No.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
No.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
No,
Chairman Hughes,
Yes,
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
That's a tie vote, 4-4.
And motion
The
failed.
motion fails.
So now back to Commissioner Nash's question.
Yes, currently, Ms. Bierman is at step 5, I believe, of the airport administrative analyst position, and that is an annual salary of $62,828.
You know what that rate is by the hour?
I don't, let me find out, one moment. $30.20 per hour.
Okay, that's the top pay.
There's one more step in the admin analyst position. This would create a new assistant airport manager position from $29.54 to $37.35.
And the reason I voted no on this is because I think that we should move forward with the motion, because if we do decide to go with an airport manager, I think this would be more reasonable. Plus, we're talking about trying to compensate someone for the efforts that they've made and taking on responsibilities that was not of their position from previous times. So I don't think this is out of order. I just think that we could go ahead and vote on it. And we do know that we've reduced the cost of the supervisor. And I think that has been agreed on with the potential person if we decide to go that way.
I agree with with Commissioner Nash on that. My only concern was that if we do decide to bring somebody in, we just promoted her to a position that they could eliminate.
Well,
Or they
that's
could put somebody else in.
we don't have any say so in that.
So that's why I was thinking maybe we should just do the pay raise and not the change of the position.
Commissioner
Well-
Hughes, Mark, I want to clarify what you said there. If the firm is brought in, they will take over all employees.
Correct.
Okay.
And they could change everything, pay scales and whatever.
Right.
This is a way that we can compensate this person. But if we do go with operations, we're already progressing in the motions by making sure that we have these salaries where we want them.
And giving them a starting point and, moving forward too.
Correct.
Madam,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, it also would help to make sure she stays. I mean, we can't afford to lose her. If we, correct the salary issue, then that will help to keep her. Sounds like she's very valuable.
Bob, I do have a question about,
Yes, sir.
because when I look at this, you look like you're compensating your assistant more than your operations manager.
Currently, the operations manager position is unfilled. We have no one in that position now. This is, in certain respects, as you mentioned, sir, paving the way for, the option one, where the county would retain management of the airport.
Oh, okay. So this is a supervisor, not the manager's position.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Sorry, I stand corrected.
I move that we approve this number 36.
There's already a motion on the floor.
Is there?
that's right. That one, it failed, didn't it?
No, we
we
already had a
voted on the
motion before
motion.
we could discuss it.
If someone wants to call for a vote, that'd be,
Okay,
Call for a vote.
right.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes,
7-1.
that motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business? Seeing and hearing none, is there
Well,
any?
actually, it's under comments. Sorry.
Okay, that can come in a few minutes.
Mhm.
We'll move to new business. Any new business? Now public comment.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes,
this is Jim Coons. Just to respond to Commissioner Nash's request, the draft agreement on the janitorial contract would be set up to allow 30-day cancellation for convenience or immediate cancellation for cause.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Is there any public comment?
Philistine, I do not see any hands raised at all.
Oh, thank you very much. Final board comments.
Can I make one quick
I
comment?
do.
Yes,
Okay.
Commissioner Nash.
In response to what Jim was just saying, we've always had some issues here with cleaning services. So I just want to make sure that Jim takes the time to make sure that they're evaluated and make sure that he gets back to us and let us know how that cleaning service is going, especially early on.
Right, I appreciate that. I also would like that too. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I would also, I mean, this is actually more of a question of Bob Coons. We haven't heard anything about how the new bus routes are working and the new systems. Is that something that we could hear either in the next meeting or?
Mr. Coons is here. Maybe we can have some comments from him today. I think he's here.
Yeah, Jim Coons. Commissioner, I think operationally the routes are working very well. The routes are more direct, they're more timely. The customers that we're hearing from that are on the buses are giving feedback to the drivers. A lot of the drivers are coming back saying that the customers are appreciative that they're able to get places quicker. Of course, it's difficult. It's difficult right now to gauge the opinions of those that are not riding. Some may not be riding because of, it doesn't serve them the way that it did, but others are certainly just not out there due to the goings on and COVID and everything else. So we'd like to do some surveying of that, in the months to come. But again, it's very difficult to get out right now and meet with people. So operationally, they're working very well. The general feedback I'm getting is that one of the purposes, which was to make travel times quicker, is being noticed by those that are using it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but from just a handful of people. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Mr. Skolnick.
wanted to say something earlier, but if you mute yourself, you can't unmute without the host doing it. I just wanted to say that our airport, I don't know about selling it, that's a big deal. But one unique kind of hindrances to this airport is the fact that we've got an airport that serves somewhere between 3 and 4 million people 45 miles away. And it's no big deal to drive over there. That's like, I suspect that most airports with essential air service don't have a really major airport that close.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any? Then I would entertain yes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if there are no final comments.
Support.
so moved.
All in favor, signify by saying yes.
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 Yes, we are adjourned.